What's up guys, it's Miranda with Serious Dance and Fitness, and today I'm going to be taking you through an upper body dumbbell workout. The only thing you're going to need for this workout is an exercise mat and a set of dumbbells. I recommend using a weight around a 5 or an 8 so we can use the same weight for every single exercise and not have to switch out the dumbbells. We are going to start out with some V-sit punches. So we're just going to hold the dumbbells and punch across our body and twist and hold that core. On these punches, you want to try to fully extend out your arm and keep the bicep contracted on the way back in. To change up the difficulty on this, you can lift those feet off of the mat for a little bit more of a core burn. Next thing we are moving into is an alternating chest press. So you want to have those dumbbells above your chest and your elbows out at a little less than a 90-degree angle. Now we want to push one arm up while the other arm pulls down. Different from a normal alternating chest press where one arm is moving at a time, I want you to focus on moving both arms in opposition at the same time. This is going to keep both sides of the chest active throughout the entire exercise. And if you do want to change up the difficulty, lift those feet off of the mat to engage the core even more. I always like when I do upper body to involve the core. That way I'm getting like 2 exercises in one. From here, we are moving into an arm raise. So you want to start with those dumbbells by your sides and you want to have them rotated up. And then all you're going to do is with straight arms, lift those dumbbells up and over your head to touch the ground behind you and bring them back in. We want to make sure we're keeping our belly button to our spine and try to keep your back as flat as possible against the mat. You don't want to have an arch. So we want to think about keeping that core engaged and just having all the movement coming from the shoulders. Next thing we are moving into is our skull crushers. So we're going to take those dumbbells and put them above your head and put them together. And then you're going to drop those dumbbells down to the mat and then extend your arms straight. Now we want the elbows to be a little bit ahead of the shoulders and not directly on top of them, just so we can target that tricep a little bit more and ensure that we don't hit our head with the dumbbells. And again, to make this a bit more difficult, lift those feet off of the mat to engage that core. Next thing we are doing is some chest flies. So again, those dumbbells are going to start right on top of your chest and you want to think about the hands being almost together, and then you're going to fly them out to the side with a slight bend in your elbows so you feel that pull in your chest. To engage the core, we can pull this up into a glute bridge, and this actually helps activate the chest even more because we're going to be able to have a tiny bit more range of motion on the bottom of that fly. Make sure to keep a slight bend in those elbows so we avoid any hyperextension. We're going to flip it over now into a bear crawl position. So my hands are right underneath my shoulders and I'm gripping onto the dumbbells. My knees are right underneath my hips and I'm up on those toes. And I'm just going to one arm at a time row that dumbbell up and think about squeezing my elbow as close to my side as possible and minimizing the back and forth movement from the hips. It's okay to move back and forth a little bit from side to side, but ultimately to make this an even stronger core, we want to have barely any movement. And just focus on that row, squeezing those shoulder blades with every pull. Standing up now, we're going to go into some bicep curls, and this is going to be a combination of just a regular bicep curl and then a wide bicep curl. So we're starting with those arms straight down and curling it up, and then still keeping those elbows pinned on the wide curl. You're just going to turn out the arms and bring it to the side of your shoulder rather than the front. So just alternate between the two, remembering to straighten the arms fully at the bottom so that we don't get that shortened bicep. Keep the core engaged the entire time, and the rib cage, you want to think of it as closed so that that top of the core engages as well. Moving on to an alternating shoulder press combination. So we're gonna have those arms at a 90-degree angle, and then we're gonna press up one arm at a time, and then bring both arms together. We wanna keep those elbows again at that 90-degree bend. Don't let them drop below, just to make sure the shoulders stay active the whole time. Now, when doing any standing exercise, we wanna make sure that our back is not swayed. The tendency is to arch our back just to relieve a little bit of pressure. You wanna engage that core and almost think about tucking that booty under to make sure that we're not having that sway in our back. Next thing, we're moving into some bent over flies. This is gonna hit that back again. So we wanna make sure that we have that core engaged as we're bent over. We wanna be as flat as possible from neck to hip, and we are just lifting those arms up and flying them out. Similar to that chest fly, we're just now going the other direction, but we still have a slight bend in those elbows, and at every pull, we are squeezing our shoulder blades at the top and making sure we hit that squeeze position before returning back down. Next thing we're moving into is a tricep kickback. So we are gonna be standing, our elbows are pinned to our sides, and then we are just extending that arm straight back behind us. Only movement is coming from that elbow. Try not to sway that shoulder or get too much of the rest of the arm involved. You wanna isolate just that elbow so it hits that tricep muscle. Again, keep those elbows pinned to your side, keep that core engaged, and we wanna make sure that back is flat and we're not sticking that booty out. Next thing we're doing is a hammer curl to a press out. So we wanna keep the dumbbells and our palms facing inward, and then we're just gonna curl it up and press it straight out in front of you. Again, we wanna avoid that sway in our back, so bend your knees slightly to help with that. And we wanna try to avoid too much swinging back of the dumbbells. You can swing back slightly to just have a release, but make sure your elbows get locked back into place with every curl. And on the press out, we're keeping those shoulders down. From here, we're moving into a lateral raise. So we wanna have those palms and the dumbbells by our sides facing inward. And we're just gonna raise the arms up to a T position with straight arms. Make sure to not have any bend in those arms, as we wanna just isolate those shoulder muscles and make sure that they're doing all the work. Now, if you can't get all the way up into that T position, just go as far up as you can without sacrificing any of that proper form. Keep that core in tight, make sure that back isn't swayed, and again, raise up as far as you can, isolating just those shoulders. Next thing, we're gonna do those same skull crushers we did on the ground, but in a standing position. So again, we want the dumbbells over our head and touching, and then we're gonna extend the arms all the way straight and bend the elbows so that the dumbbells drop behind our head. We wanna keep those elbows in as much as possible and avoid them to flare out to the side, so we can again isolate just that tricep muscle. Next thing, we're going back down to our mat for some push-up rows. We're gonna do a push-up, and then from the top of that push-up, you're gonna pull each arm in for a row similar to those bear crawls. Now, with the legs fully straightened out, it is a little bit harder to keep those hips steady, but you still wanna try to think you're only pulling from the arms and try to involve the hips as little as possible. If you're finding that they're twisting too much, feel free to drop onto those knees for the push-up so we can control that core a little bit more and focus on the movement from the back muscles rather than the core. And our final exercise is going to be a Superman press. So for this, I take one dumbbell and I hold both sides of it. And then I'm just gonna extend my arms overhead, hold it for a beat, and then bring it back towards my head and hold it. This entire time you want to think of having your chest lifted off of the mat, so we're squeezing into that lower back, but still hitting those shoulders while pressing that dumbbell out. Your feet can lift off the mat for a little bit of extra in that lower back, but it is not required. You can leave those feet on the mat if needed. And we are done. Go ahead and stretch it out. We're gonna sit back into that child's pose to release that back that we just stretched out right there. Go ahead and thread one arm underneath you in that child's pose to stretch out that shoulder. Really sit your weight into that shoulder to really stretch it out, and switch on over to the other side. And take one arm across your body, give it a hug, and pull inward as much as you can to really stretch out that arm, and go towards the other side. Stretch it out again. We want to keep that arm straight in this stretch as well. Arms overhead, go ahead and grab that elbow, pull it over to the side to really hit that tricep and open up that lat on the side. Switch sides. And amazing work today.